Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. We're going to start out, we battle ignorance and apathy daily here, like I say. And this first story, I got to tell you, is just purely ignorant. It comes to you, BLM, Black Lives Matter, is calling for a boycott of white-owned companies. Any company owned by white folks, in other words, any company not specifically owned by black Americans or black people, I guess, in general, should be boycotted. Not for any specific reason, but we'll get into why I think this is idiotic and really another sign that Dr. King's dream is dying, if not already dead. And then Santa Claus Biden, he's been accused of being the Grinch because there's nothing on the shelves or there's a threat of nothing on the shelves for Christmas. But now he has come out himself and essentially claimed the role of Santa because he has promised, these politicians make all kind of promises. Biden promises that the shelves will be stocked for Christmas. So we'll tell you what his plan, if there is such a thing, for that. But before we go any further, I always have to talk about opportunities, deals we have for you. Look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. Click on the link, Big Daddy Unlimited, BDU. Click on that link and you follow the directions and you will get factory direct pricing on guns and ammunition delivered directly to your door. That's right, guns and ammunition. And not only that, but over 100,000 related items delivered to you at factory direct pricing. Now, if you want to see just how good a deal you can get, well, do I have a deal for you? Check out the show that precedes us. We come on at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Denny's Deals comes on at 10 o'clock Eastern Time live. He comes across the John Martin Facebook channel. He also comes across our excluded site. You drop the E, spell excluded with a big X, excluded Facebook site. Denny comes on for about 15 or 20 minutes. He picks out some products from the Big Daddy Unlimited arsenal. He talks about them, demonstrates them, but then he gives you the pricing, the factory direct pricing you would get if you were a member of Big Daddy Unlimited. Once you see just how much you can save, I know you'll be excited. Go back above our video, click on the BDU link, follow the direction, and that pricing will be yours. You'll help yourself. You'll be helping the show at the same time. Christmas is literally on our doorstep, and nothing says I love you more than maybe some ammunition in the stocking stuffer or a pistol itself. Check it out. Big Daddy Unlimited. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. Take a little sip here first. I'm John Martin, not Dean Martin, as I say. So it's a soda that I would advertise for if they want to pay me. But anyway, let's get into this show. Breitbart. This is a story out of Breitbart. Black Lives Matter demands holiday boycott of white companies. Well, I guess, that's better than burning the sucker down. They just boycott your business. You might be lucky, right? The Black Lives Matter movement is urging supporters to wage a month-long boycott of what the far-left organization describes as white companies as the holiday season approaches. Well, Billy Bob tells me, if you hadn't met my psychic sidekick, this is Billy Bob Bass. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're determined to stay in the public square of social media and deal with algorithm and all of that kind of stuff. But he tells me, that it could be a lot worse. It could be worse if you're boycotting. Boycotting might be the softest thing you can see. Because remember this video from about a year ago? A Black Lives Matter representative was talking in front of a Chicago police precinct about the recent looting, and yes, I did say looting and rioting that had happened. I guess, what do they call that? The Miracle Mile of Chicago. Listen to what she had to say in defense of looting. There's no other way to put it. Check it out.
I don't care if somebody decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's or a Nike, because that makes sure that that person eats. That makes sure that that person has clothes. That's reparations. That is reparations. Anything they want to take it, because these businesses have insurance. They're going to get their money back. My people aren't getting anything.
My people aren't getting anything. So what do you suppose? I mean, that's why I say that Dr. King's dream is literally teetering, if not already dead, because this woman is telling you that, and when we talk about reparations, we're not even talking about some kind of cash payment, just the right to take whatever you need whenever you want it, regardless of who gets hurt. But of course, we've seen this recently. That was like over a year ago, but just within the last week, we saw this happen out in California. Check it out. I think we get the picture. What you're seeing in that is that's a Nordstrom store, and reports from 50 to 80 people bum rushed the store during open hours with customers in there, just took everything out of it, basically stripped the store, ran out to waiting getaway vehicles, and just took off in the middle of Christmas shopping. I guess they did their own thing. So I guess if they're going to actually boycott you, that might actually be a good thing considering what the alternative. And of course, Billy Bob, as I told you, my psychic sidekick, he just told me that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is essentially, over a year ago, basically, she said this when it comes to people actually looting and stealing from stores that, well, let's just play it and we'll come back and talk about it. Listen to AOC.
Why is this uptick in crime happening? Well, let's think about it. They need to feed their child and they don't have money. So you maybe have to, they're put in a position where they feel like they either need to shoplift some bread or go hungry that night.
Think about that. So the people running out of Nordstrom's, the people going in the stores, and you've probably seen some of the video with the sledgehammers, those people are just trying to get some bread. I mean, the guy, we just had a retired police officer shot dead while working as a bodyguard for a MSNBC, I think it was, film crew that was filming some of this kind of stuff out in Oakland, was shot dead. I mean, it's ridiculous that they're actually trying to get bread. The things that the left wants us to believe are just unbelievable. That they're just trying to get some bread for their babies. Oh yeah, really? Right. Or these are mostly peaceful protests as the place is burning down around them. Or what do they say in the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, that sometimes you just have to take a beating. Like if Kyle Rittenhouse didn't defend himself, he'd be dead, let alone taking a beating. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. There's no problem here. I mean, now Joe Biden, for instance, is supposed to be coming out today, literally, and potentially talking about that if you're traveling from overseas, an American citizen, it doesn't matter whether you test positive or not, whether you've been vaccinated or not. They're talking about making you quarantine in place for like a week when you come back to the United States. But at the same time, they bum rush the border on a daily basis, and that's not a problem. There is no crisis. I mean, the amount of garbage they want us to believe is just unbelievable. It kind of reminds me of that saying, hey, I got good news and bad news. What is that? Well, good news is, or the bad news is, all we have for supper is BS, right? And the good news is we got plenty of it, because that is exactly what they want us to believe. It is just unbelievable. Back to this article, the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation posted to Instagram this. And when you hear this foundation, probably so they don't have to pay taxes. Keep in mind that Black Lives Matter has been given hundreds of millions of dollars by corporate America. But this is what their post on Instagram said. White supremacist capitalism uses policing to protect profits, and steal black life. If anybody's stealing black life, it's probably Planned Parenthood, but we may talk about that more later. Skip the Black Friday sales, their statement says, and buy exclusively from black-owned business. Well, let me just tell you, this has already actually been done, and it was part of segregation, if you will. There was like the Black Wall Street phenomenon. There were, especially like in the South, and I'm not condoning this, I'm simply reporting the facts, ma'am, that in the South, you basically, black businesses had to spring up, black-owned businesses, because of whites only and segregation, that blacks had to basically buy and shop from black-owned businesses. And actually, as a result of that, there were some very strong black-owned businesses, black neighborhoods, black business zones, and all of that. Even in my little town of Hawthorne, where I grew up, there was an area in where there was a black school and everything else, and there was a thriving, they even have movie theater and everything else. Now, I'm not condoning segregation. I'm simply stating what was actually happening. There was a thriving black economic community. Now, one of the consequences of desegregation, and I'm make sure you understand this, I'm 100% in favor of desegregation. I believe in judging people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. I have always been that way. That was the way I was raised. But one of the unforeseen or unfortunate consequences of desegregation is that many black-owned businesses basically went away. I can show you even to this day in like Gainesville and probably all over the South, but my little town of Hawthorne, the remnants of a once thriving black-owned business section. But once black people could make a choice and go to Walmart or whatever, they made the best economic choice for them individually. It was not actually the best economic choice for the businesses. So this idea of supporting only black businesses actually has been done before, and it actually works. So I'm not necessarily opposed to people looking and saying, you know, I want to support this locally owned black business. I get that. I'm not opposed to it. What I don't like is the idea of boycotting someone else. That, to me, that's very different. It's one thing to say, you know, I'm a black person, and another black person has opened up a business, and I want to give my business to them, making a personal decision to try to help them. But that I don't really have an issue with. That is a personal decision. But when you turn around and advocate that not only should you support Joe's business over here, but John Martin's business, we got to boycott, and the only thing I'm guilty of is being white. I mean, that makes no sense. It is the opposite of what Dr. King preached. That's just the way I see it. Back to this story. To support its cause, the Black Lives Matter group called on supporters to visit blackxmas.org, blackxmas.org. I looked at the site, typical of them, where it can learn how to move your money out of white corporate banks that finance our oppression and open accounts with black-owned banks. I got mixed feelings about that. I mean, on the one hand, certainly you have a personal choice to do whatever you want to. But I was wondering, this is what the irony of some of this stuff. So if you look at Black Lives Matter, the organization, which is a Marxist communist organization, I will show you complete proof of that in just a minute, but they just simply are. Now, they've prettied up their websites and stuff, soften their language a bit to try to confuse people, but they are founded by Marxists, supported by Communist China. Look it up yourself. It is just a fact. But I got to thinking about this blackchristmas.org going there. I wonder if they got a section in there about how you flip houses. Can you flip houses? Because we found out that one of the founders, and I'm going to show you a picture of her in just a moment, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter actually made millions of dollars. You know, this anti-capitalist group has made millions of dollars and turned around and was flipping houses, bought like 5 houses, bought houses down in the Bahamas and everything. You know, I guess they're opening up a branch there. So I'm wondering if when you're talking about black-owned businesses, should you only buy your houses from the house flipper that helped create the organization? The group said in a statement last week announcing the boycott of white businesses, As BLM LA organizer Jan Williams reminds us, this is a statement from Black Lives Matter, capitalism doesn't love black people. Wow. So capitalism doesn't love black people unless you can extort money from white, I guess, owned businesses. I mean, if they're publicly traded companies, they're owned by every color of the rainbow, but you can extort money from them, like say Coca-Cola, and then turn around and put that money to flipping houses. Or, you know, how does that help black people? I don't really understand that. In fact, back to this statement, so let's start over. As a BLM LA organizer, Jan Williams, this is a statement from Black Lives Matter, reminds us capitalism doesn't love black people. In fact, white supremacist capitalism invented policing initially as a chattel slavery era patty rollers in order to protect its interest and to put targets on the backs of black people. Well, let me just address this. And I'm not even talking about police brutality and that, but the statement that police were created, I guess they're assuming. Now, police officers of some form or fashion have been since the beginning of time, basically. So that part of it is just wrong, period. But if you look at the history of how police officers started in places like New York and Boston, which was one of the first things, it had zero to do with color, and it was not of the chattel of slavery era patty. It was just simply, it's simply not true. And maybe, you know, so I wonder about, this is what I wonder all the time. So they're telling a lie here. I wonder if their Black Lives Matter videos, because they're giving misinformation, will they be banned? Because, I mean, I've been accused of all kind of things. Simply asking a question gets me banned. Sharing an opinion gets fact-checked, that kind of thing. Does Black Lives Matter, have they ever been banned for any, like when they had a video calling pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, what do we want? Dead cops, when do we want them? Now. That video's still up on YouTube. I mean, so it's just, you know, talk about a double standard. I hadn't said this in a while, but if I say it, it bears repeating. There is no double standard. There isn't. Now, I understand what that means. There isn't a double standard. There's a standard for people like me, and I'm held to standards I'm not even aware of, and they won't even explain it to me. But what standard is Black Lives Matter held to? I don't know. You know, one of their spokesmen just the other day came out, I believe it was on Instagram, and said that that dude that crashed through the parade with Waukesha, that was the start of a revolution. So he was actually applauding the violence of killing helpless women and children in a Christmas parade. Have their videos been banned? I don't know. I don't think so. They don't even talk about it correctly on places like MSNBC. They talk about a car. They don't talk about a person who has a stated reason for doing it, that they were a Black Lives Matter person. And I'm not blaming everyone who supports Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about the organization. But this guy is a domestic terrorist, and they basically blame the car. So I guess we're going to have car control. Or maybe I'm seeing this wrong. Billy Bob kind of reminded me of something. Maybe I'm seeing this wrong. Maybe all of this BLM videos and all that, and the fact that they're putting out these lies about how police departments were started and what their original purpose was, all of that kind of stuff. Maybe it's just part of what the new Twitter CEO, and we talked about that yesterday, what he's all about. It's a part of a constructive conversation. Not about free speech, but about a constructive conversation. If you didn't see our show from yesterday, you really need to check it out. A couple of ways to do that. You can go on Rumble. We're on there every day, every morning, live streaming and archived on Rumble and YouTube. Howdy, how are you guys? We're glad to have you. But one of the best ways to do it is to go to your app store and get the Excluded app. Spell excluded by dropping the E, put the big X up there, Excluded app. Our show is archived there on a daily basis, as well as a lot of other original program. But you remember the new CEO of Twitter said, we're not bound by the First Amendment, whatever the heck that means. And that, you know, our purpose is to control, literally said to control the conversation, for constructed conversation for the betterment of the community. If that doesn't sound like some Maoist, communist, Chinese, I don't know what does. Back to this story. Hashtag Black Christmas challenge us to shake off the chains of consumerism, this is part of their statement again, and step fully into our own collective power to build new traditions and run an offense as well as a defense. The statement added, let's harness our economic power to disrupt white supremacist capitalism and build black community. And, you know, let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is worse. This is worse than total BS. It really is, because you think about Dr. King's dream of judging people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. But it's worse than total BS, because here they are, Black Lives Matter, essentially giving you financial advice, right? They're telling you where to invest your money into these banks and everything else. Certainly make a personal choice. But let me just point something out to you. Look at this picture right here. We've got a picture of two women and a guy. You know who that is? The guy in the middle is Nicolas Maduro, the dictator of socialist Venezuela. Yes, that's him. And the lady in the black dress there, I can't recall her name at the moment, but she is the house flipper. She's the house flipper. She is the chair, I suppose, but the co-creator of the movement Black Lives Matter, that lady. And she's hugging up pretty good to Maduro. So, and what is happening in Venezuela? I mean, here you have in Venezuela, a country that used to be the jewel down there of Central and South America, has like the largest oil reserves potentially in the world and can't produce any gasoline, is surrounded by water, has a rainforest and is running out of water, has some of the richest land on the planet and is running out of food. So this whole idea that socialism works is total crap. Socialism sucks, baby. But here this woman is hugging up to Maduro, and that's who she started this organization, Black Lives Matter, which if that doesn't show you proof that they are a communist Marxist organization, I don't know what does. But are you really going to take financial advice from these folks? It just doesn't make any sense. The boycott comes, back to the story, the boycott comes after Black Lives Matter criticized the celebration of Thanksgiving, calling American stolen lands. They got a whole section on this website about that. Now, let me just make a statement here. This idea of stolen land, there's truth to it. I mean, a blind man could see it. Yes, we treated the Indians pretty poorly in this nation, and to a certain extent still do. And I know that I have a larger than I ever realized, and I'm grateful for it, Native American population that watches our show. I have some very loyal listeners that watch our show every day. And so I'm very sympathetic, and maybe they watch it because I tell the truth for one thing, but I feel like I got to tell the truth now. This is an unrealistic argument. Understand me, I am not saying that that land wasn't taken from Native Americans and that they weren't mistreated and all of that stuff. 100% fact. And we don't even need to get into all the different atrocities. But in a sense, this has been going on since the beginning of time. It is not unique to white folks to take land from other people. In fact, the Native Americans took land from other Native Americans. There's a reason why the Aztecs in South America that were so dominant were easily overthrown by 600 pretty ruthless conquistadors. It was because the rest of the Indian population around there hated the Aztecs with a passion. I mean, if you look even at like, what was that movie? It doesn't really matter. But if you look at the Sioux Nation, which at one time was one of the strongest, if not the strongest Indian nation out there, right? Well, one of the reasons why they were able to take them, the American military was able, the United States military was able to take them, is because they were using scouts and stuff from other Indian tribes because they hated the Sioux. You know, man's inhumanity to man knows no bounds. For instance, China, basically, under Genghis Khan and the Mongolians, took over almost all of Europe. The Moors, which were people of color, took over much of Europe. at one point. The Italians, I tell people all the time, we all got a little Italian in us, certainly if you're from Africa and Europe, because the Italians took over all of that at some point, and they were pretty ruthless as well. So this idea that, that humanity has not been ruthless to each other and that somehow occupation is uniquely white is just, it's just not true. And I go back to this statement. I want to make sure you understand it. It's unrealistic argument at this point. Now, I don't say we shouldn't look at the past, learn from the past, maybe even adjust something from the past based on atrocities that were committed. At least be honest about it. That's the main thing that I want us to be. But it's unrealistic argument to keep going back and rehashing Thanksgiving and all that. We need to come together. We need to be out of the many one, e pluribus unum. But this whole idea that, let me read this part again because I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but I want to make a point here. So this is a part of Black Lives Matter statement. It said the boycott comes after Black Lives Matter criticized the celebration of Thanksgiving call on American stolen land. So let me ask you this. Should all black people, and I wish I could interview somebody of Black Lives Matter because I don't really understand this. So if you go by their logic of stolen land and people living in places they're not supposed to be, shouldn't all black people then have to go back to Africa? I mean, because there weren't any, you know, I know that most African Americans were brought here, their ancestors, against their will in slavery, and it was a terrible atrocity. There's no question about it. But if you're saying that you're living on stolen land, then black and white people are living on stolen land, including the houses that the Black Lives Matter people flipped. So should they go back? And this idea that somehow that the color of your skin is somehow going to dictate how well you run things makes no sense at all. We played this video. This is about 6 months ago. This is in South Africa. This is in riots. If you notice, it's all black on black. And some of the bigger businesses probably were owned by people of other colors other than black. But a lot of these mom and pop shops you're about to see were owned by black people. And I want you to notice at the very end of this video, there is a group of black people very similar to the black people I've played out in Oakland that are basically bemoaning the fact that their neighborhoods are being destroyed. Check it out.
In the heart of a township on the outskirts of Johannesburg, people seized and stole at will, as they have done for the past few days. And there is little or no fear of the authorities here. Turmoil and anarchy have gripped some of South Africa's largest cities, and the government has had to respond with armed police and members of the military. But the looters and the rioters are fleet of foot, and rubber bullets do not seem to scare them. We followed the authorities down a local thoroughfare, but they only managed to catch one man before they handed the area back to the troublemakers. Later, we found the South African police minister, Boycott, doing a walkabout through the rubble, but he didn't want to answer our questions.
Minister, do you have the situation here under control? Do you have the situation here under control? Because it doesn't look like it.
The unrest began after the country's former president, Jacob Zuma, was arrested, but a series of protests have grown into something far more troubling. Here on an estate near Durban, residents filled their arms with televisions, microwaves and bikes plundered from a distribution centre. In Johannesburg, shops and businesses have been targeted or destroyed despite the efforts of the police, although they caught up with looters at this supermarket as they battled to escape through the back. In a place called Tembisa, the shops and the post office have been set alight.
All of the shops in this plaza have been looted, but they're also destroying them as well, setting fire. Individual shops, there must be half a dozen now gone up in flames, but they're still here picking through the ruins. You can hear them in this shop. You can see them up on the counter. They don't like being filmed. I think we should go.
A fight back of sorts has begun to emerge as community groups seek to save the businesses that provide them with jobs. But they can't count on the authorities.
That's good enough. And I don't play that to try to single out black folks in South Africa. I'm simply pointing out the fact that if you have lawlessness in the street, if you have crime in the street, all of that kind of stuff, if you loot and pillage and burn mom and pop shops and all that. Remember in like Kenosha, Wisconsin, almost every one of those shops that were burned were owned by local people. And go back all the way to Ferguson in Missouri there, when they burned that. In that case, almost every one of those small shops were actually owned by, guess what? Black Americans. And there's plenty of video of people out there complaining, black Americans saying, where am I going to shop now? They destroyed my American dream, all of that kind of stuff. So there's certain things that have nothing to do with color. Much of humanity has nothing to do with color. And that's not to excuse racism. Racism exists. It'll always exist at some level because you cannot legislate what is in a person's heart, period. But there are time-honored traditions and axioms, if you will. You cannot have lawlessness in the street. You cannot have looting and everything else and crime running rampant and have a civil society. You can't have absence of police. You can't defund police. It doesn't matter what color you are. So what they're trying to solve here will not work and probably will hurt black people more than anybody else, what they're proposing to do here, which is par for the course for Black Lives Matter. You know, Dr. King, Martin Luther King, had it absolutely right. We may have come, like he says in this meme here, we may have come on different boats, ladies and gentlemen, but as Dr. King says, we're all in the same boat now. MLK had it right, and it just breaks my heart to see his dream dying on the vine, because Black Lives Matter is killing Dr. King's dream much more than any white supremacist ever could. All right, let's move along. We want to talk about Christmas, and there's a new Santa Claus out there. This is a Reuters article. Neither Santa nor Grinch, Biden promises stock shelves for Christmas, according to Reuters here. A Biden Christmas we're going to have. Hallelujah, man. Can you imagine? I love this. This is a South Park takeoff if you don't know who that is, man. Merry Christmas. Anyway, check it out. Some of you will get it, some won't. President Joe Biden promised on Wednesday that rising prices and goods shortages will ease somewhat even as the United States approaches the holiday season, facing new threats from the Omicron COVID-19 variant. And so I'm going to, based on what? Based on what? I mean, how in the world is President Biden going to make sure? That's a heck of a promise to make sure that the shelves are stocked with everything we need for Christmas. I hope he's right, but he's really putting this. But nobody's going to blame old Biden anyway, right? Billy Bob tells me that maybe we're not looking at it properly, that maybe Joe has a secret weapon in his son Hunter Biden. I mean, maybe he does, because we know that you know, he lights up for Christmas and New Year's and every day in between, right? There's old Hunter Biden. He's got the ends with the Chinese government. Maybe Hunter is going to negotiate a deal to make sure that we get all of Santa's wish list comes true for us. I don't know. I mean, if anybody could pull it off, it's Hunter. And you know what makes it? I talked about Big Daddy Unlimited for your stocking stuffers. But what would make a better actual stocking stuffer than maybe a Hunter Biden painting? How about that? And I skipped something. I got to go back here, because speaking of Christmas and gifts and everything, I have a gift for you. Go above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. Click on the link johnmartinhealth.com. That's johnmartinhealth.com. Click on that link, follow the directions, and you will get absolutely free a bottle of zinc and a bottle of vitamin D3. Because one of the things we've learned during this pandemic is that we need to be healthier as a people, and nothing will help your health better than good nutrition and good supplements. So take this free gift, $50 value, bottle of zinc, bottle of D3. Go to johnmartinhealth.com, click on that link and follow the directions, and it will come to you. But Hunter Biden, man, I mean, think about, is on your wish list a Hunter Biden painting? You know, I don't want to pay $600,000, but I wouldn't mind one for free. Maybe I could sell it for $200,000, you know, whatever. Strong demand for goods has stretched, back to the story, strong demand for goods has stretched the capacity of an economy still grappling with the novel coronavirus, otherwise known as COVID pandemic, sparking inflation and political risk for the Democratic president. Well, one of the things that Biden did get, and maybe he's on to something, you know, Biden got his boat parade. He finally got his boat parade. You know, he wanted a boat parade like Trump did, but Biden's boat parade is a little bit different. It's all these freighters backed up out there in California. Come to Florida, by the way. We'll unload you right now. I guess they're unloading some of this stuff out there in California in a whole different way. When are the looters? Think about those looters we showed earlier. One of the big winners, if you will, is Jeffrey Bezos and Amazon, right? Because all the mom and pops burned down and they're being looted, that you'll get everything online and be safer that way. But all these Amazon trucks, what's going to happen to them? I'm going to make a prediction. I hope I'm wrong, but I think you're going to see stuff like the old train robberies, if it keeps going, in the old stagecoach robberies, where they're going to be hijacking these Amazon trucks and stuff like that, because they're going to get, I mean, if you board up the stores, they're going to get what they want no matter what, right? Because they deserve it, right? They're looking for bread. They're going to be robbing trains and Amazon trucks for bread. Back to this story. Biden said this about as far as Christmas, having stuff on the shelves. Listen to what he said. He said, I can't promise that every person will get every gift they want on time. Only Santa Claus can keep that promise. But we're heading into a holiday season in very strong shape. Is that what you feel? Adding, he believed that store shelves would be stocked. He also said, ladies and gentlemen, a while back, in this same thing, he talked about how people have more money now than they had back. We're going to play a video of something else here in just a minute. But he also said in this statement on Wednesday that people have more money now than they had prior to the pandemic in their pocket. But he forgets to talk about the fact that gas is up daggum near 50% and everything else. So you may have more money in your pocket, but with inflation it buys a whole lot less. But here's something to keep in mind that Joe Biden said back during the debates with Donald Trump. Listen to this.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day.
That's
now.
good enough.
1,000 deaths a day.
So Joe Biden sounded fairly coherent there, right? He said that he's implying that Donald Trump was responsible for over 200,000 COVID deaths, right? Because that's how many people had died since while he was president. And he said that anybody that presided over that many deaths should not be president. So Joe, I'm going to take you at your word. But let me just ask you, you have any idea how many people have died since Joe Biden got sworn in? I'm not talking about elected. I'm talking about sworn into office. How many people have died? The numbers are approaching over 350,000 people, according to the government's own statistics. So can we expect Joe Biden to step down when? I mean, give us Kamala, I guess, right? But he literally said that nobody should be able to remain as president when over 200,000 people died during their watch. And we got almost 50% more than that have died under his watch. But like I say, you don't even hear that on the mainstream media, do you? There's no double standard. What standard is Joe Biden held to? Not much of one. Maybe the mirror fog and the mirror standard, that's about it. The Democratic president, who spent weeks after his January inauguration pushing stimulus to increase demand, has spent more recent months trying to clear port log jams and lower prices on goods from meat to gasoline. Wow. I mean, I can't even believe that Reuters, and this is Reuters, I mean, might have thought it was Breitbart, but Reuters actually said that. And it's true. It's absolutely true. But this idea that Joe Biden and his team, his cabinet, can actually solve any problems is just ludicrous. I've been telling you, there's a debate whether Joe Biden is the worst president ever. And, you know, certainly he's in a class pretty close to by himself. But I maintain it's even worse than that, because Joe Biden may or may not be. I don't even know if he is president. I mean, I'm not even talking about the election. I understand he's occupying 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. What I'm saying is, I don't know if he's capable of being president on a day-to-day basis. I actually think we're dealing with the third term of Obama, but that's just my conspiracy theory. But one thing for sure, whether or not, you know, Joe Biden is the worst president ever is still up for debate. But I don't think this next thing is not up for debate. He's got the worst cabinet in the history of our country, certainly in my lifetime, the absolute worst cabinet. I want to play you just one snippet. We've played this before, but it deserves replaying because it really pretty much sums up what's going on in Joe's cabinet. And this is Energy Secretary Granholm when asked about a month ago about gas prices much higher even than what this article or this commentator brings up, what she can do about gas prices. Listen to this.
Michigan, it is $2.89 a gallon. I guess that's better than in California. What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God. That is hilarious. Would that I had the magic wand on this, as you know.
That's hilarious. So when you're suffering out there, ladies and gentlemen, trying to you have to make a decision to buy the Christmas gift your kid wants or fill up your car, which I guarantee you people are doing that. Remember that laughter. And this same energy secretary, when asked just last week, and we played this video before, we'll keep it for later, but she said she had no idea. She didn't have the numbers when asked how many barrels of oil do we use on a daily basis in the United States of America. She said, I don't know. I have no. When she had just gotten through supposedly working through releasing the strategic oil reserve, 50 million barrels. Well, we use roughly about 20 million barrels a day, so that was a Band-Aid at best. These are the people running our country. God help us. And Pete Buttigieg, did you see? I tried to pull up the video, but I had a hard time getting it. But Pete Buttigieg was asked about fuel prices. Now, he's the transportation secretary, right? This is what he said. Pete Buttigieg says Americans should buy electric cars. Now, keep in mind, the average electric car costs north of 50 grand. And never have to worry about gas prices again. So if you're struggling to fill up your tank, just shell out 50 grand and get yourself an electric car. I mean, not to mention that most of our electricity is produced by petroleum products and everything else. But I saw this meme on Facebook, and boy, did it really speak a lot. Look at this meme, because it is so absolutely true. What if you were in an electric car and you're stuck in one of these one of my stepsons on his way, this was several years ago, on his way back to Michigan, got caught in an ice storm just north of Atlanta. You may remember it. He was trapped on I-75 for 3 days. 3 days. And the National Guard came out feeding them, bringing them blankets and everything else. Can you imagine being stuck in an electric car while you're sitting there watching the battery go down? Where are you going to charge it? It's just ludicrous, man. And I'm not opposed to electric cars, but this idea that Americans just need to get off their butts and fork off all this money to buy an electric car and it's going to solve everything is absolutely ludicrous. How you going? It's certainly not going to be electric semis anytime soon. Back to this article. Now the Omicron COVID variant has sparked fears that demand could slow, talking about all your Christmas that Santa Claus Biden's going to provide, slow and also keep the unemployed at home. Biden is talking about travel bans. He's doing travel bans already and quarantines right now. He's already banning travel from Africa because this is supposed to be the epicenter of Omicron virus. Isn't that racist? I mean, didn't he say that Trump was racist for banning travel from China? Well, if he's banning travel from Africa, isn't that like double racist? I don't know. Because Asians aren't people of color. We saw that when that Wu lady was elected to the new mayor of Philadelphia, right? The leftist, even though she's a leftist, said she wasn't the right color, right? So if Asians aren't the right color, and that's racist, then surely people from Africa, I don't know, it's really confusing. Biden said that some tightness in supplies are common during the holiday season. Check this out. Including the 1980 shortage of Cabbage Patch Kid dolls and Beanie Babies in 1990. Wow. So he's comparing now to the Beanie Baby craze and the Cabbage Patch. It's just insane, man. I guess he's wanting to listen to the record player. Your children remember that from the debates. But everything is fine. Everything is fine. In the spirit of Christmas, I'm just going to agree with the Dems on everything, that everything is fine. And if you don't believe me, just listen to Kamala Harris's reaction to Biden's plan.
In San Francisco.
Keep it playing. So if you're at the gas pump and you can't afford an electric car, just go Kamala. Just laugh it all. Hey, you know. If there's no turkey or no toilet paper, heaven forbid, it's just laugh it off. If your kid always wanted this one prize, but it's hanging in Biden's boat parade off the coast of California, just laugh it off. I mean, these people, that's good enough. These people are unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. And these Democrats just laugh at things. Well, you know, their solution to a crisis is pretty unique. There is no crisis. And talk about the travel bans. I mean, so they're banning people from coming from Africa here, and they're talking about, and we'll see what happens later today, they're talking about making American citizens, let alone people from Africa and everywhere else, quarantine for 7 days, when at the same time, if you come across the border illegally from Mexico, they don't require you to do anything. It's just absolutely, they do not believe what they're talking about. And I'll close with this. I wish that they were simply incompetent. I wish they were simply incompetent. My great fear is that things are going exactly to plan. Exactly to plan. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go to all our social media sites, like them, share them with others. Remember your free gift here, johnmartinhealth.com, the great savings at Big Daddy Unlimited, both links above the video. I'll pray for your family, you pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great nation. And I hope Biden's right, that we got plenty for Christmas and everything else. Let's not forget the true meaning of Christmas. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.